Recording started.
So for homework 3, I was testing the use of a hover tool on the San Jose State SLIS website. And just to recap about hover tools, they're buttons that are hidden until the user hovers a pointer over them. And here's an example. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but the mouse off, mouse on example, this is from Gmail, where the option to star something becomes noticeable when you hover over it. And I thought that hover tools would be good for this particular case, the SLIS website, because you can offer information and an action in the same user gesture. And I also thought that they would be good because we've all talked about how crowded the home page is, so you could save some real estate there. And they are a tool of the help and documentation heuristic from Nielsen. So in order to test the hover tool, I recruited 2 users. One was a younger male, and for this test, I would consider him to be a power user. He's familiar with common user interfaces and kind of how things work behind the scenes. User 2 would be more of a casual user, comfortable using a computer, but not always sure of himself. And then for the testing session, I used the tester's offices and used just basic equipment, the little board to keep track of all my different sticky notes, the user task sheet for each session, and my screenshots. And then for the session itself, I gave them a brief explanation of paper prototyping because they weren't familiar with it. And then my script to kind of launch them off is you're surfing the web and you visit the SLIS website and you want to learn more about the information being communicated by the map so that they would know that's kind of what I wanted to focus on. And I made a mock-up of the SLIS website with a new map area, and here's what it looks like. I took the text directions. I removed the text directions from the area. And so on mouse over, a legend pops up with a button to interact with the map. And this is actually the exact sketch that I did in homework 2 for how the pop-up looked. And so both users looked at the legend but clicked on the map to learn more. And by clicking on the map, it brought them to this screen, and that would work like a regular, Google map. So after that, it was only like 20 seconds because it was one click. I asked them if they thought the map worked like they thought it would. And user 1 said yes, it did, but user 2 thought that he would see information on the same page. And then I also asked how they knew to click on the map. User 1 recognized it as a Google Maps widget, and user 2 just assumed he could click on it. So based on that information, for my second iteration, I kind of made the legend a little more noticeable. And so I added color and the marker icon. I also changed the call to action on the button. It was interact before, and it's zoom in now. And I added the little magnifying glass icon. And so this time, user 1, the power user, clicked on the zoom in button. But user 2, the casual user, still clicked on the image to learn more. So I asked, why did or didn't you click on the button on the hover tool this time? And user 1 said that zoom in really worked for him in terms of getting him to act on it. User 2, the casual user, thought that he could just click on a specific marker on the little thumbnail. So based on the quote-unquote success of getting someone to use the hover tool, I refined it a little more. I made an even more explicit call to action on the button, and thought maybe it could take up a little less, cover up a little less of the screen. And that made no difference. Both users clicked on the map. They didn't use the hover tool. So based on that, I asked them the questions, why didn't or didn't you click on the button? And it's basically just seemed like people wanted to click on pictures was the takeaway from that round. So after doing the testing, there were a lot of things that I didn't expect. The willingness to click on the image was probably the biggest one. None of them tried to click on the title, on this yellow title of the graphic. And the image itself didn't really have like a tooltip over it to say that it was a link, but people really wanted to click on it. I was also surprised that the hover tool didn't really get a lot of attention. People were really into the picture of the map. I was really shocked by user 2, the casual users wanting to work in the small little thumbnail area on the SLIS website, on the homepage. And I think that's an anomaly. So it makes me wish that I had more test subjects because that seemed kind of unusual. Based on that, I came up with some recommendations for the site. Here is a screenshot of how that little section actually looks on the SLIS website. I think the text instructions are useless. People are going to just click on that picture. The fact that people want to click on the picture is also good because hover tools don't work on touch devices, so as more people are using their phones or iPads, tablets, the hover tool wouldn't really work for them. I also would recommend that they don't embed the actual widget as a thumbnail, but just an image, because it's a little confusing if you did remove the text. I would also recommend that they do use a hover tool because there's no downside to using it if you are using a desktop computer or a laptop. It would explain the map more succinctly than the kind of awkward text instructions that they have now. And I would also recommend on the hover tool that they employ a button with an explicit call to action. I think that would increase the chances of people using the fully functional map. And that's my presentation.
Hey, somebody had a hand up, right?
Oh, I clicked on that on accident. But Marilee, can you go back to the last slide where you have the map? So I was wondering, is the hover tool, does that appear on the front page if you recommended that a thumbnail go there, or is it, does that appear after you click on the image?
Well, the hover tool only appears if you are hovering over the thumbnail section of the site. So basically, it doesn't appear on the fully functional page. If I'm answering your question right, are you talking about this page? Yeah, I didn't test the use of it on here. I just tested it on the thumbnail on the home page. To answer Abby's question about the casual user wanting to use the map when it was so small, it wasn't because of his level of expertise. It was more that I would think everyone would want to use the biggest workspace that they could everyone wants a bigger monitor or a bigger screen on their phone, so I thought he would want to see it larger. Yeah, I was surprised by how many surprises there were.
Okay, great. I think, you know, one thing that really, oh, Jennifer, go ahead.
I have another question. I also worked with hover tools, and one of the problems I had, which you'll see, is that I couldn't really show the hover tool feature. I was wondering if, Marilee, you had any trouble with that, like if they realized it was a hover tool?
Yes, it was kind of easier at the beginning because they were so tentative. After they got used to the user test, it was a little harder to keep them from wanting to click right when I showed them the screen.
Does that answer your question, Jennifer? It's a good point. You know, I'm really excited to see two people in one session that deal with hover tools because most people don't deal with them because they're really hard to prototype. So. Now, just say I really admire. You guys probably agree. I really admire the way that you haven't just taken a screenshot of the whole page. You know. It's fine to do that, but what you're doing here is really focusing attention on the pieces that you're interested in. So you've basically camouflaged all of this other piece of the interface, grayed it out. So this is really well done. So kudos to you, and also this kind of prototyping with popovers with